Welcome to Metagaming TV with Scream 112. And today's guest is ConcernedApe, creator of Stardew Valley.
And we're live. Here we go. That was an interesting way of ending the intro, because I realized when I swapped the scene, it just cut the music, like it didn't fade or anything cool. Work in progress. We will get it better next time. So, you're watching One-on-One episode 2. I'm Scream112, and with me today I have ConcernedApe, the creator of Stardew Valley, a indie game, which he will tell us more about in a little while. We're gonna start by getting to know him. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
So, let's just start with the like getting to know you part, and then we'll talk about the game, and we'll end this whole thing with community questions from you guys. Pretty much everything's that been posted in the thread on the Stardew Valley forum, where we asked you to give us some input on this show. That will be the most of those questions will be asked at one point or another. Most of them at the end of the show. And let's just start by getting to know you. Like it's funny to call you ConcernedApe. But what is your name? Where are you from? How old are you?
My name's Eric. I'm 25 years old and I live near Seattle, Washington in the USA.
Cool. Eric, I'm just opening the thing here. Cool. As you can all tell, this is my second time doing this. I'm gonna be nervous. I'm still not all into this thing. I've done web radio before, but this is still new to me. But it's an amazing experience though. So, Eric, let's just start with, did you grow up in Seattle? Like, what did you do? Did you do sports, or were you the nerd? Did you do a lot of games? Tell us, who are you?
Well, I mean, I did play a lot of games when I was growing up. I wouldn't really say I was a nerd, but but people probably don't want to admit they were a nerd anyway, even if they were. But I did play a lot of Super Nintendo and Nintendo 64 and stuff like that, PlayStation. I played some sports. I played baseball when I was younger. If anyone's wondering why this my microphone sounds so good, one of my biggest hobbies that I had when growing up and still really was making music. Actually like playing guitar and things like that and recording it. So I have a lot of audio equipment.
Cool. Yeah, when we talked before the show, I could definitely tell I've been doing web radio for a while, and I'm still using a regular headset, and I was like, whoa, you got some really good quality there on the microphone. Hopefully it goes through to the viewers as well. So, well, you played a lot of video games then. You, in that regard, I mean,
I did.
What's a nerd like? I mean, you can do so many things: card games, board games, role-playing games, video games, baseball. That's pretty awesome. Very American of you.
Yeah, I wasn't very good, but
Don't have to say that. You can say you were the high school star or something. People probably wouldn't be able to check it out. So, okay. So, what did you study then? What did you like? How far within the school system did you go? Like, did you do college, stuff like that?
I did. Yeah. Not too long ago, I graduated from college with a degree in computer science and a mathematics minor. Uh,
That's still pretty good though, isn't it? It doesn't really work.
sure,
I know it
yeah.
doesn't really work the same over there it does in here. I'm in Sweden, so yeah, it's not really the exact same levels and system, but it's pretty much the same when you get to college. We just call it differently here. So what was it then like? So mathematics, computer science, you said,
That's right, yeah.
right? And how did that like, or like, how did you get into? Because you said you were heavy on music, right?
That's right, yeah.
So how did you get into like? When did you even think about creating a game?
Well, okay, I mean, back when I was starting college, I didn't really know what the heck was I going to major in. Um, I like a lot of different things. It's not like programming was specifically one thing that I always wanted to do. I like doing a lot of things, like you said, and like I've said, I like doing music. I liked doing art and writing and doing all those kind of things. And I don't know. I guess I was kind of like, what am I going to do for a job? You can't, it's hard to get well, it's easier to get a job, let's say, if you have a practical skill. So I kind of just did the more safe route, and I was like, I like computers. I've grown up using computers my whole life. I'm interested in technology, and so I just took a programming class in community college, and I thought it was pretty fun. And then there was this computer science program at a nearby university, and so I just did it. It was kind of like just I could have just as easily chosen something else, and then I would have never been making this game. So it's kind of random in a way. But so I went to that, and I went through the whole 2 years of learning how to program and all that stuff. And then towards the end, I was thinking, what am I gonna do next? Do I want to, because it seems like a lot of the other people that I was going to school with and who were doing computer science, you know, they all wanted to go and work for Microsoft or Amazon or something like that. And it's not like there's anything wrong with that, but I just didn't really feel like it was for me because I've always liked to do other things rather than just programming. I consider myself less of a programmer than other stuff. Programming is probably the thing I do the least well. I hope to say, but so I was just like, I'd rather be able to do all the different things I like to do, music and drawing and writing and all those things, rather than just programming all the time. So it's like, how are you able to do that? And I was thinking, making a video game is like the perfect thing because it combines all these different kinds of media together into one cohesive whole that, and so I don't know, I'm kind of rambling, but I decided I'm gonna make a video game, and then I started working on Stardew Valley shortly after that.
When in the timeline of your life did we're actually already left like who are you? But it's fine though. Like we don't need too much details there, and I'm like waving my hands. When did the idea of Stardew Valley shape, and like how did how did the yeah, like when in the timeline in your life did like you get the idea of doing something like Stardew Valley? Have you done prior to Stardew? Have you done any other game?
I haven't done any game that was, like a big full project like Stardew Valley is. I made some simple little games, to practice and get better at programming and just making games in general. But I never really created anything on the scale of Stardew Valley. I mean, before I worked on Stardew Valley, my idea was to make and this was actually while I was still in college. My idea was to make an online multiplayer Bomberman kind of game.
I love
And I
Bomberman.
actually, I actually got it working to some degree, but I realized that it wasn't going to be able to scale up to having, I was envisioning having thousands of players playing simultaneously online through my own servers that I was going to run. And then I realized that it probably wouldn't have been able to scale up to more than like maybe 20 players on one server because it's too like fast paced. I mean, I probably just didn't program it very well, but it didn't work out. So I abandoned that project. And then, um, I graduated from college and I was like thinking I need to get a job or do something. Um, and so I wanted to learn how to program in C sharp, and that's what Stardew Valley is written in actually. So I started just messing around with C sharp, and I had actually always had an idea of wanting to make a farm game like Harvest Moon because I've always been a huge Harvest Moon fan, obviously, and you know, every so often I would check online to see like are there any PC Harvest Moon type games because I've always wanted to play something like that and I could never find anything that was satisfying.
You didn't think what is it called? Farmville was good?
I hope you're joking.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely joking. If that wasn't definitely a joke. No,
Nope. Farmville. I actually played Farmville a little bit and it's not very fun.
no, it isn't. So, um, like, how was it born then? Like Stardew Valley. Like, did you know the name before you knew the game, or?
Well, actually, before the game was actually called Sprout Valley originally.
Oh,
And then I changed it because, well, several reasons. First of all, I just didn't really like the way it sounded. Sprout is not a very pleasing word to say, I don't think.
true.
Um, and second of all, there was like a Harvest Moon game with I think a location in the game called the Sprout Islands or something like that. So I
Oh,
didn't want to. I mean, I know people are always saying my game's like, well, not everyone, but there's some people, especially when my game was, first being revealed to the public, people were saying, oh, it's a Harvest Moon ripoff. So I didn't want to further that sentiment by choosing a name that had already been used in a Harvest Moon game. So um, I was looking for a new name, and I wanted to choose Star Drop Valley. I mean, in retrospect, I feel like that's kind of an annoying word to say as well.
yeah, there's
But
something
anyway,
about it. Yeah. Okay.
Star Drop was already taken. It's like a some kind of biological software or something like that.
Oh,
So I didn't want to use that. So I finally just came up with a Stardew, whatever. I mean, you know, maybe it's not the perfect name, but it's more important that it's a good game than it's a great name, right?
okay, that's very true. That's very true. Though, I don't know. A lot of people, and now that we're talking about it, even me sitting here listening to you starts thinking like Stardrop, Sprout. You know, you're feeling how do they roll on the tongue? Like how easy are they to say and stuff like that. And now I've been like saying, like I've been talking about Stardew, preparing for this show for, well, I think we've known about it for 2 weeks, and well, I knew about the game before that, and now it's hard to picture any other name. You know, now
Well,
it's
I see.
Stardew.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand, and I realize that pretty much whatever you choose, people are gonna just roll with it. It's not really that important
No.
as long as it's not something that's just really like horrendous to say or for some reason is really off-putting.
Yeah.
And I don't think Stardew Valley is that kind of name. I mean, it's kind of a neutral name. It gives sort of the feel that I want, valleys. When I think of a valley, I think of this kind of bright, bucolic country kind of valley. sunny and beautiful, you know. And then Stardew is kind of it gives me this idea of the, sort of some kind of mystery or something. I don't know. Like there's little pinpricks of stardust glistening in the twilight or something like that. So I thought that it kind of captured the ideas that I wanted to have in my game.
So how long ago was it now then that you really like, okay, you came up with, oh, so I guess you started working on the game a bit before you actually decided on the name.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
I started working on the game about almost a year and a half ago.
Okay. And like how okay, let's start with inspirations here because you've already mentioned Harvest Moon. Um like which games have you do you feel the most inspiration comes from?
Well, I mean, Harvest Moon is definitely the biggest. Um, when I first started making the game, I was basically just thinking about Harvest Moon. I mean, I have played a lot of other games, and obviously those have influenced me in many ways, and especially like old Super Nintendo RPGs, like Secret of Mana and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like maybe I'm saying the names wrong on all these things. I don't really know what the names are really pronounced like, you know? So I'm always afraid that I'm going to mispronounce them. Because I've heard people say like Secret of Mana or like Chrono Trigger or Chrono Trigger or
Oh
whatever.
man,
So
that's so
I
hard to
don't I don't
say
really know
right.
how to. Right, I know.
Yeah, I'm Swedish. Like, mana, like, that's, as long as people get it, like what you're trying to say, I think it's cool. I think it's
Right, but
okay.
you also don't want to sound like a doofus.
Oh boy, oh boy. Not
Um,
we shouldn't talk about me, but my daily work is I'm not gonna say what it is exactly, but it involves a lot of French and Italian stuff, and I speak none of that. Which makes it really hard to me to like, oh, so you want this, like, so it's fine. At least for me, it's fine. Like pronunciations, it's cool.
yeah,
Um,
well, Super Nintendo RPG names are like French to me.
yeah, you see. Oh,
But anyways, yeah, in addition to that, I was playing a lot of, modern games, like Minecraft and the like, um, while I was developing it too. And so obviously those influenced the direction I wanted to go with the game a bit. Although I still think that by far the biggest influence to the game is definitely Harvest Moon. And the thing about that, I might as well go into this whole dialogue now. It seems like a good point is, or a good time to do it, is that okay, like in response to people saying that, Stardew Valley is a Harvest Moon ripoff, I totally understand that thinking that because it does draw a lot of things from Harvest Moon. Definitely. I mean, it's a farming game primarily, although there are a lot of other elements that don't have to do with farming as well. But it's largely a farming game, and the style of it and everything you do is a lot of it is like almost directly from Harvest Moon in terms of gameplay. But the thing is, the reason I'm making it is not because I wanted to just rip off Harvest Moon. It's because I wanted to take the things that Harvest Moon did, especially the old school Harvest Moon games that I really enjoyed the most, like the Super Nintendo Harvest Moon and Back to Nature, Friends of Mineral Town, those games. I wanted to take that formula and just add a whole bunch to it and create a new world with the feel of those games, but with a whole bunch of extra stuff in it. I mean, it's always the game that I wanted to play. So I'm hoping that and I think there are a lot of other people out there who feel the same way, that they would love to play a game like that with even more stuff. And yeah, and Stardew Valley is also going to be multiplayer and for the PC, which are all things that are completely new to this genre. So I like to think that I'm expanding on the genre in a different direction rather than just ripping it off. But back to you.
Oh, thank you. It's and it's you who should talk, and it's so funny because you're pretty much answering. You already answered like three questions of mine, I think, which is great though. Like I found out about the game through a friend. He linked me to the site. I think he found out about it because just like me, he was following Starbound, and all of a sudden there was this other game being published, I guess, by Chucklefish on their forums and stuff, and that's how we found out about it. And we'll get to that. Uh, so, did you have any have okay? Let's see. Did you have any other job prior to working on this game?
Um, yeah, I I had a couple of jobs.
Yeah.
I One of them was working at a pretzel shop for a long time.
You know, it's okay. Um, well, at least I was just curious because it
I
felt
haven't
almost
had
like
any
you came out
real.
of college and you went into doing this. So I was curious if there were any other work experience, like if you did any other job before
Right.
working on the
I
game.
didn't. No, I didn't have any programming related jobs, if that's what you're asking.
Uh,
Just kind of
just
normal
just in
jobs.
general, or like I think I don't want to go out and say that I'm sure about this, but like Gabe Newell, like I think he worked at McDonald's when very young, you know, stuff like that. So that was just me being curious about that. Because my next question would be if this now is like a full-time job to you, or like still something you do part-time.
Yeah, I've been working full time on this game for a while now.
Okay, and
Don't ask me how I'm funding it. My life. It's Yeah.
I won't ask how it's funded.
I'm living in a dirty hole somewhere with just my computer, uh, and just working on it 24/7.
Because, like, a question now that you mentioned funding, did you ever think about Kickstarter?
Yeah, I thought about it, but there's a couple of things that stress me out. Is first of all, since I'm doing it all myself, like I don't really need to, hire people to do parts of it. So I don't really need Kickstarter funding for like the purpose that it's intended for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which I think is, to fund the development of something. I don't really need to fund the development of this game because, yeah, it's just me. So another thing, and this is probably the main reason, is, you know, I think I would get really stressed out just having given people, or having people have given me money already for something, and then without me giving them something in return right away. It
Mm-hmm.
creates this sort of like thing where I owe
Yeah.
potentially thousands of people, a gift in the future. And I think that would really stress me out. And I don't want to have that stress, all the time that there's a bunch of people who I really owe them something, you know. It probably a lot of people they can handle that pressure and it's fine, but I'd rather
Mm-hmm.
develop stress free and then sell the game and give people the game right away when they buy it instead of, I don't know.
I think it sounds like a good view on it. Really good answer. And I just expect there's a lot more developers out there feeling that way, because yeah, you just gave a good view on why maybe Kickstarter isn't the best of things. Because as you say, like there's this pressure, maybe even some sort of deadline where you just feel like, oh, I have to make this now that people have put money and faith into it. Yeah, I totally see what you're coming from, where you're coming from. I think it's a great answer. And as you said, now you're doing this all by yourself. There's no one else but you. Um, like with I guess you already answered it a little bit, but like you do graphic, you do code, you do music. Which part has been the most challenging, would you say?
Well, I think okay, well, when I started making the game, I was terrible at drawing like pixel art,
Hmm.
and I still don't think I'm like great at it, but I think I've improved a lot. And so I think making that look good is probably been the most difficult. And second to that, definitely um, the programming, especially making it multiplayer, is a very challenging part of developing any game is multiplayer. The
That's something I've
music,
heard.
music is was basically the easiest, just because it's something that I've been doing for a lot longer than any of the other things.
I heard that from well, one very close friend who's we could also an indie developer here in Sweden, and another one that is working for a company. They both pretty much said the exact same thing, which was that pretty much anyone can make a game, a single player game, a good experience, an advanced game. Like it's if you can code and stuff, it's not the most difficult thing to do. But once you go multiplayer and net code, it's a whole different ball game, from what I heard. And that's what you were saying as well, and that doing the multiplayer part, the net code, that's a big challenge.
Definitely, yeah.
And how did you tackle that when you get went into it? Did you know anything like what you were to do, or was it just trial and error all the time?
Well, I mean, like I already said, I had developed that Bomberman online game before, so I had some experience with, the basic ideas of a multiplayer game. You need to send
Mm-hmm.
messages back and forth between client and server or whatever. So I had this idea of like how would I go about doing it and already in my head, and so I kind of just executed that. I also, got advice from a lot of people who had already been doing this sort of thing and who are more experienced than I am. And that helped me out too. Some of the developers from Chucklefish, for example, gave me some
Let's
good advice.
let's talk about that. How long ago was it that well, how did you get in touch with Chucklefish? Like, who approached who? Can you tell us anything about that?
Um, yeah, I can tell you about that. There was a member of the forum on my old website for Stardew Valley, had sent Ty an email. And if you don't know, Ty is the head guy of Chucklefish, one of the co-developers of Terraria. I hope I'm saying that right. And he's also currently the lead developer of Starbound, and he's just a really cool guy all around. But um, a, a member of the Stardew Valley forums apparently emailed him and showed him my game, and then he contacted me and offered his help, in terms of making sure that Stardew Valley is a success. And he likes the game, and he wants to see it come to fruition and become the best game it can be. And so Chucklefish is helping me uh, achieve that.
I think that's awesome. I think that's pretty amazing. So it wasn't that long ago that it was announced that they would like what is the role? They're the publisher in this friendship that you have or cooperation.
Yeah, that's their official title,
Mm-hmm.
but it's more of a loose sort of helpful relationship, I'd say.
Yeah.
They've helped me out in different ways. First of all, just being associated with Chucklefish is good for the game
Mm-hmm.
because they're developing an awesome game, Starbound, that a lot of people are excited for. And so being associated with that, you know, I'm glad to be associated with it, and I think it makes people accept Stardew Valley more, and it just gives more exposure to Stardew Valley than it would have otherwise. You know, in addition to that, they've helped me out getting a better website and having a new forum system. You know, my old forum on the old website was just really just a piece of garbage. It was just like free bad system with a bunch of ads on it, and you know, it's hard when you're the only developer for a game to like spend a lot of time on, you know, marketing your game and getting a good looking website. It's like I'm juggling all these different things, and so I kind of skimped a little bit on things like the website, and the forums were definitely kind of garbage, and I had a pretty bad chat room, and they helped me improve all that, and I think the new website is way better and works a lot smoother and has a lot more features than the old one. So I'm really happy about that.
Amazing. Um, yeah, it makes me happy because me and my friend was following Starbound and such, and we both played a lot of. I'm not sure I'm gonna say it right. Terraria. Um, and it just had me thinking about something which probably just gonna be um, totally out of the topic we're on, but I think I saw either in the video or screenshots some Stardew media thing, video or photo, or screenshot you call it, I guess. I think I saw a monster, like these little slimy things that jump around.
That's right.
Yeah, and it felt like I was like, hey, aren't those from Terraria?
Yeah, well, about that, I mean, the slimes have been in games for a long time, so it's
I
not like that was
know.
the first time they appeared. But yeah, I mean, I know everyone's gonna say that, and it's like, oh, why not? Everyone's already saying that about, you know, the Harvest Moon thing anyway, so might
But
as well.
I haven't seen much about that. But I haven't been around since the old forum and such, so I haven't seen much about that. But I can
There's
see how people.
I'd just like to say that there's a lot of different monsters, not just slimes. I mean, there are slimes, and I think that a lot of slimes might be kind of a cliche because they're really easy to draw and you can color them in different ways. But I think I've added a little twist on slimes in my game that I think will be fun. I don't really want to give it away,
Yeah.
but the behavior of slimes in Stardew Valley is more complex than other slimes you may have encountered.
The most complex slimes ever.
I wouldn't go that far, but
No, it just
they have
sounds
some
funny.
interesting behavior. And
Cool.
there's a lot of other monsters as well, not just slimes.
Cool. Let's just keep going into that direction, though. I would like to ask you, um, what would you say if I asked you what is the core features of Stardew Valley? What would you say?
Well, I'd say that the most important part of the game is probably farming. But, you know, I don't call it a farming game. I usually refer to it as a country life RPG because there's a lot of different areas that you could, um, ex well, areas of gameplay, like rather than just farming. There's fishing is a big part of the game, and I plan on expanding on fishing quite a bit, and almost to the point where you could just be a fisherman and not even spend any time farming at all.
Awesome.
And you know, mining is also a big part of the game. Basically, my idea is that I want to set things up so that you could just be a miner, or you could just be a fisherman, or basically any area that you can make money in the game, you could almost solely devote your time to that thing because it's complex enough and it's deep enough to be able to, you know, be a full game in itself almost. And that's I don't know. So that's why I'm kind of apprehensive to just call it a farming game, even though the farming is kind of a big core aspect. But it's mostly just that you're part of this small community, Stardew Valley. You know, there's a town, and there's a community there, and people living in the village. And you know, over the course of the game, you'll get to know these people, make decisions that affect the town, and you know, make money and be able to improve your own situation over time in any area that you choose. And it's open-ended more in terms of what you can do and in terms of what happens in the valley rather than it's just a huge, I think a lot of people get this misconception that the game is like a huge procedurally generated world where you can just keep walking in any direction. I don't know where they got that idea, but it's not true. I mean, there are procedurally generated areas in Stardew Valley that are quite large, but the game itself is more contained in the way, kind of like Harvest Moon is. But I've made it open-ended, more open-ended in Harvest Moon in terms of what can happen and what you can do in the game, rather than it just being a big open-ended world.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah, there's a difference there, definitely. You say open-ended game, but when you say that, at least I don't think about like, oh, I can walk for miles and miles and it will generate new stuff. I'm trying to figure out that word, but isn't that just I don't know. Isn't there another word for that? But
I think you're probably thinking of procedurally generated.
yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking about. But you're awesome, by the way. You remind me a lot about me, at least when I were doing web radio talk shows all alone, and you're really good at talking. I have to say, and it's because it's funny
Thank you.
because you keep going. Like I'm like, but I wanted to ask about that, and you're just. It's awesome. It's not a complaint.
Well,
I find it
I feel
really
like
interesting.
I feel like I'm kind of rambling a lot too, though. Like just
No, it's
I don't
awesome.
know.
It's
I
awesome.
I actually get really nervous, like when I'm talking in front of groups and stuff. So
It's
I don't
just
really
you and
feel
me.
that way right now, but
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. Um, yeah, I can understand being nervous on the web, live talking. Um, I can understand that. I'm nervous. Not as much anymore. Getting into it and stuff like that. So, um, open. Okay, not an open-ended world. Like not you can't walk for miles and miles and it would generate new worlds. You have like areas that you have pre-designed, or is the area will the area be generated at all, or is it all areas pre-designed?
okay. Well, the game is still in development, so
Mhm.
anything I say might not even be in the final game. It might not be true at all. I have a lot of plans or possible plans that I might execute still, depending on what seems fun or not. But I'll tell you that right now there's a fairly large pre-made area that's the actual Stardew Valley.
I'm gonna stop
And
you right there.
okay,
Are you gonna talk about the dungeons?
yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit if you like.
Because that's gonna be a question, and I'm thinking of having a break before we go into that. Before we talk about the dungeon, because from what I've read, it's a big part of the game as well, is it? I'm asking you now, is the dungeon a big part of the game?
It can be if you want it to. But
Okay.
before we go on, I just want to say that like the reason I say that is because um I want to set things up so that you don't have to do it if you don't want. There's alternative ways of getting anything you need. So, you might go into the caves to find certain ores, but there will be other ways to get those ores if,
Mhm.
for example, you don't like fighting monsters. The caves are dangerous. Some players are more conservative. They don't want to put themselves in danger. So there will be other ways. It might be that the caves are a good way to get resources, but they're not the only way. And that's what I don't want to force players into doing things that they don't really like because, different players, some players just want to play Stardew Valley to relax and farm and not have to worry about monsters. So I'm not going to like force it on them necessarily, although they'll be missing out on a big part of the game if they don't do it, but it's not required. And you can still play the game without doing that.
It seems to be a game with many sides of it. That's probably what I would have said. It seems like it. It seems like it.
I agree with that.
Cool, cool. You know what? This is a great time to take a quick break. Maybe refill your glass of water, or maybe just drink a little bit if your throat is getting dried up. It'll be 4 or 5 minute break, and we'll be back. I need to learn to look into the camera when I'm talking to you guys who's watching this. We'll be back in 4 or 5 minutes. It's a short break, and because at least I have a lot of questions about the dungeon part of things, also more about the RPG side of things, and we'll see what he has to say about that. So we'll be right back.
Hello?
And we're back. So I noticed that Mr. Ape here lost his hat. during the break. You had to go get some water. It looks a bit like Mr. T from the A-Team, I think. Are you back, by the way? Or
I am, yeah.
Oh, so I didn't start without you.
No.
Because you were typing, so I thought you were back. Good, great. Awesome. Which is a word I use a lot. If people watch this on YouTube, you can do a drinking game. Anytime I say awesome, you take a drink. Uh, now that I said that, people might actually do it. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, I wanted to talk about the dungeon and the RPG side of things. Maybe okay. I mean, the RPG side of things might not just be tied into the dungeon, but it's something I look forward to myself a lot. The whole farming thing is really also really interesting. I probably shouldn't say this, I'm gonna get killed by the viewers, but I haven't played much, if any, Harvest Moon. I did play it just like really little because my friend had it on the Super Nintendo, but that's about it. Like, I don't have much memory about it. I haven't touched it much at all. Still, though, and I mean, that's a good thing, I guess, that a game can still um, be interesting to people, without you having to had to play a game that it's inspired by or similar, obviously. So it might be me finding my farm um, trip here, doing a lot of stuff on that. But I'm very curious about the dungeon because I love going into dungeons and explore. I love explore in any game. I explore everything. So the dungeon. I read somewhere that it's supposed to be a really big dungeon, a lot of levels.
It is large, yes. The, okay, the dungeons, although they're not really dungeons, I call them the caves because they're
Oh.
not really, but they are a dungeon, in terms of what you would say for an RPG. But, also when you say dungeon, you might think of like stones and chains and like things like that, skeletons walking around. Um, they're they are procedurally generated, so whenever you play a new game of Stardew Valley, the caves will look different.
Oh.
Um, so yeah, they are quite big, and what I was meaning to say with the procedural generation thing is they could potentially be nearly infinitely deep if I wanted them to be.
Oh.
So they are several hundred, well, over 100 levels deep right now. I've set it that way. I could always make it bigger or maybe add some way of continually encountering new levels if I wanted to.
100
Um,
levels. I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Like
it's
100 levels.
over 100 levels deep.
Wow.
The reason why I'm setting a limit is because, in addition to having procedurally generated areas, I also have some mine areas that are not procedurally generated.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted there to be some, feeling like there's kind of a little like story in the mines almost. So you can reach a bottom level and, put quotes around bottom.
Yeah.
But you can reach a bottom level and there's something interesting there. And there's some feeling like, okay, I've kind of come to the climax of my quest in the mines or whatever. In addition to that, though, I want to add in, for example, on the farm, I was going to add in a building probably called like a mine shaft or something like that, that if you create this building, it basically generates a little mini mine for you that's procedurally generated. So you could essentially have infinite levels of this dungeon if you wanted to. But the actual cave that's accessible from the valley is a few hundred levels deep about. And each level is quite big. there's a lot of stuff to do in the mines.
Can you um, like the mining part of things? Like, is it will so pretty much what you're saying is that you can take your pickaxe, start mining away, and you will open more and more and more areas.
That's true, yeah.
So there
On
won't be a like wall where you're like, ah crap, I can't mine this. It's too hard.
Well, no, there actually is. Each level
Oh, okay.
is constrained at some point. It's
Okay.
not an infinitely generated level,
Okay.
but the levels go deeper and deeper, and you'll reach new levels by, I'm still not exactly sure how yet, but I was considering maybe having a thing where you can craft staircases and then place them wherever you want on the level, and it leads down to the next level down.
You find a hole
It
and you have to put us like, yeah.
Yeah, there might you might also encounter, staircases that are already in the mine that lead down and things like that. But I'm still not exactly sure what the best way to do that is, what's going to be the most fun. But I think that having craftable staircases is it makes it so that you have to gather some resources to be able to go to the next level. So you can't just like power through the mines like super fast. Like you kind of have to spend some time in the mines to progress in the mines. You have to gather some resources from the mines to be able to go down to the next level.
Hmm. Some yeah, some requirements like yeah, okay. Well, about the RPG side of things then, like how will you level up your character or will like how because I'm thinking especially now I mean you do have the farming bit. I'm actually going to talk about that as well, but to those watching who are asking me about it. But like let's see how to phrase this. Do you have levels on your character? Do you level up
You
so that
do,
you can
yes.
get better and better and because I'm thinking that the further down you get in the dungeon, the harder stuff will get. How do you fight
It
that? Better equipment as well, then I guess.
it's true. The thing is you gain levels, but currently there's no actual combat level. The levels have to do with skills, like farming. There's a farming skill, there's a fishing skill, mining, luck is one of them.
Hmm.
There's like a wood cutting skill. I guess it's called foraging, but
Yeah.
it involves wood cutting and other things that have to do with the forest. But anyways, those actually don't have anything to do with combat right now. I'm considering maybe adding a combat skill, but I'm not even sure if I want to do that. But currently, the way you do encounter more dangerous monsters the deeper you go in the mine, and currently you um, you'll find new equipment as you progress, and that'll allow you to manage these new, more difficult monsters. So I'm not sure if I'm going to add a combat level yet or not.
Okay.
It's possible, but
How do you know how much like how much variety on the on equipment overall? But I guess mostly for those going into the going out fighting. Do you see yourself having like how many different swords, how many different type of armors? Do you know any
well,
numbers or any idea
I don't
there?
I don't know exact numbers off the top of my head, but I think there's a around, I don't know, maybe 30 different swords right now. There's maybe like 15 or so different kinds of daggers and maybe 15 different kinds of club type weapons. And in addition to that, I have slingshots. That's all the kinds of weapons I have right now:
Hmm.
swords, daggers, clubs, and slingshots. I don't want to get too crazy because, Stardew Valley isn't like primarily a combat game. So I didn't want to go too overboard and have like, machine guns
Oh
and
no,
ray guns and things like that.
no,
Which I
okay.
know some people want those
Oh
things, but
really?
it's not the vision for the game that I have.
Somehow I
Uh,
see it as a fantasy game for some reason. I don't know why. Like I just feel that it's fantasy. I
I would
know.
call it fantasy.
Yeah,
I would say that,
yeah.
but it depends on what you mean by fantasy. I would say
Obviously.
fantasy in that it takes place in a fantasy world. There are fantastical elements. It's not completely realistic. But if you mean like, is it like a combat kind of RPG sort of game? I don't know if that's what you mean or not.
No, like just the setting, like I don't know, from the pictures, it just feels fantasy. I hope people don't kill me for this, like, cause the one of my favorite games on the Super Nintendo was Zelda, you know,
Sure.
and it's still this, I mean, like at least many of the games I played on the Super Nintendo, the RPG games, I mean, have the same view, right?
Right.
And the graphics aren't that far apart from each other in the way that it's pixel art and stuff like that. So in that sense, like I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I get this good vibe thinking about Zelda myself. But that's me. So how deep is I mean, as you were saying, you're focusing primarily on the farming, though people will be able to fish and mine and even go into dungeons. But the farming then, how deep is that? Like, how advanced have you done the farming? Can you give us a hint on that?
Well, I haven't, like I've said a bunch of times already, the game's still in development, and I have a
Yes.
lot of plans yet for farming and all the other areas. But I'll tell you kind of some of the stuff that I'm considering for farming or that I'm planning for farming. I'd like to be able to have some way for players to breed their own crops. Like it seems kind of difficult in terms of gameplay, but I'm still thinking about it. And I think it's the sort of thing that I think PC games are kind of well suited for, is having these sort of open-ended, a lot of different variables in terms of what could a crop look like or what kind of characteristics could it have. And so I'm thinking that it would be really fun to have some way for players to breed crops and over time improve their crops or get different sort of, bizarre looking crops that maybe no other player in the world has ever come upon this kind of crop before. I think that would add a lot of depth to the farming that, would keep the game interesting for a long time.
Sounds
It,
really advanced.
it is, yeah, and that's why, I'm still thinking about how is this going to work in terms of, there's things that sound really cool, but then in terms of actually coming up with a feasible gameplay for that idea can often be really hard. And I think that this is one of those things. One possible, one thing that I can think of off the top of my head that makes it difficult is, if every crop has all these different characteristics, then how do the items stack in your inventory? That's
Ooh.
one question you have to think about. Like, you don't want to have really high nutrition crops be stacking with poor nutrition crops, and then you don't know which one you're going to use to cook your salad with or whatever. So it's kind of a difficult thing, but I'm working on it and I'm thinking about it all the time as to what's the best way to go forward with this. Regardless of whether that's actually in the game or not, I want to have things like that for farming that are open-ended and exciting for a long time and not just, I think the problem with a game like Harvest Moon is that, it's too easy to just experience all the content, grow all the crops, and then it's kind of like, what else do I do on farming? In Harvest Moon, it always kind of seemed like a kind of a grind after a while. You just get up every day, you do the same exact chores on the farm that you did yesterday, and you kind of just have to get that out of the way so that you can make progress on your farm. And I'd like to kind of find ways of getting around that more
Will there
so that every day
be
is interesting.
will there be random encounters?
There will definitely,
Like,
yeah.
yeah. Because
There's
when you said that, you know, random encounters,
there's going to be random things that
events.
happen on your farm, yeah, that will hopefully keep it interesting. Like, and in addition to those random events, I want there to always be a few things that are maybe upcoming, upcoming festivals or certain goals that you're working towards that you're excited about. I want the players to always have multiple goals in mind that they're working towards that keep the gameplay interesting and exciting and with some purpose, but at the same time having not too constrained of a storyline, not too linear. You could do basically whatever you want. You don't have to follow the storyline. You don't have to do these certain quests, but you kind of have these goals in mind that you're working towards all the time.
So about the storyline, can you tell us anything about what's that supposed to be like?
Um,
Like,
I can, yes. The um
without
my
spoiling
I,
too much.
my idea right now is that basically there is a corporation that wants to build a huge hypermarket in Stardew Valley, a huge mega market
Hypermarket.
that's, yeah, that is going to sell all kinds of products and basically ruin the small town atmosphere of the valley, drive all the small mom and pop shops out of business, uh, and completely change the feel of the valley forever. And it's somehow up to you whether or not you want to do what it takes to stop that from happening or just let it happen and allow the valley to change. I won't go into too much further detail.
That's just that had me like really excited about the story actually. I mean, oh, you don't need to say anything else. That's awesome. Um, yeah, I didn't need to know what else. Well, I would like to know you've been 1.5 year. I think you said you've been working on this, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, like, during that time now, have there been any major like ups and any major downs that you could share with us?
Sure. I mean, okay.
Start with
Uh,
the ups maybe, or with the down. You decide
I'll
which
start
one.
with the downs.
Okay, and on a high note.
Um, well, okay. When I first started, I'm kind of rewinding quite a bit here, but when I
It's
first
okay.
started working on the game, I was I did not have grand plans for it. I did not have an ambitious idea for the game. I thought it was just going to be this like quick little thing that I pumped out, and actually like I was planning on releasing it on Xbox Live Indie Games,
Oh,
which is like, you know,
I know.
yeah.
Wow.
So anyways, I started working on it, and then over time, I started to my more grander and current vision for the game kind of evolved over time, rather than like I had this exact idea from the start. And but like the reason why I'm saying this about the early concept for the game is that I was kind of like rushing it, like I wasn't spending too much time on making sure everything was the best that it could be because I wasn't planning on this like grand concept that I had for the game. I was thinking it was just going to be this quick little game. And then at some point, Steam, launched their green light
Yeah.
um, section, and my game at that point was kind of at this stage where I was like, I could release this pretty soon. Although thinking back, it's like that wouldn't have been very fun of a game at that point, and it's gotten like it's changed a lot since then. But I put my game onto Steam Greenlight at that point because I felt like I needed to do it. I don't know why I felt that way, but I just felt like everyone else was putting their games on here right now. I need to do it right now while it's still new. Like it's my opportunity. So I put it on there and kind of had a real reality check because like a lot of the feedback was not super positive
Oh.
about the game at that stage, which I totally understand now because looking back, I was like, yeah, it didn't look that good at that stage. Like you just can't expect a quick, like really like quickly done game by one guy to like without a lot of video game making experience to look that great, and like it just didn't, and I know that now, but at the time I was kind of just all caught up in this idea that I had to get it on green light, and I put it on there, and like a lot of people just were like, this looks awful. And so that really kind of I was
Ouch.
depressed for a while, I'll say that. But I didn't give up, and I decided that I was going to do what it takes to make this the game that I not only am proud of, but that everyone else is going to really want to play and is going to enjoy. And so that's what I've been striving for and working on since that point. And that leads up to the up
Okay, because I
part.
was gonna say the down here was the harsh comments on Greenlight when you first
Right.
put it
Yeah.
up
A bunch of
there.
people saying this is just a blatant rip off of Harvest Moon. It's ugly, all that stuff, you know.
Oh, okay,
That
that's where that
that
came
hurt.
from. That's where that came from. Okay, okay, I
Yeah.
get it. I get it. Well,
So
but that's a good thing as well. I just want to say, isn't it? Like sometimes you need
yes,
that.
I
You
think
need that
it is.
sometimes.
I definitely it it definitely showed me things that was hard for me to see myself because I had been only looking at it myself and it was very just my own thing without much external input.
Hmm.
And you just kind of like even if something's really ugly, if you look at it long enough, you just get used to it. And that's kind of how I had gotten with my game at that point. But let me get to the
The
up
up.
now because I think the game has improved a lot since that point, and I've been working really hard. And um, I think that I've improved a lot in terms of my own ability as a developer. And since that time, I've done a ton of work improving the game, and I'm still doing that. And also my like vision for the game has gotten broader in terms of gameplay and whatnot. But when Ty and Chucklefish noticed my game and started, when Ty like promoted the game a little bit,
Hmm.
I got so much good feedback at that point, and it was I don't know, it felt pretty good that a lot of people now seem to be really excited for this game, whereas not even that long ago, it was kind of a laughing stock almost. I
Oh,
don't know.
so the big up is when Chucklefish and Ty discovered your game,
Yes. And
and
I
you.
think that the reason, the game looks a lot better than it did, and that's if it hadn't improved, then Chucklefish would have never wanted to. Uh,
Yeah, they didn't see it instantly after you put it on Greenlight. They saw it
right.
a lot later.
And I'm really glad for that because it did not look good at that stage. But I'm sure a lot of developers have the same story. The game had went through a lot of iterations, and it probably looked pretty crappy at the early stages.
I would think so. I would think so. Yeah, I've been I've been part of like I don't know what you call those stages, but like the first person to see a game outside of a developer's office, like like internal testing group, but yet like external, like not even alpha, but still, external input, I guess, and followed that through development, and it's an interesting ride if you have the patience for it. Um, so yeah, so that's the up and downs though. The down putting it on green light first, and the up being when you did a lot of work on it and it looked much better, and Ty promoted it, and you got the warmth from the Starbound Chucklefish community, perhaps. Um, I mean, doesn't it seem that the Starbound and maybe in Stardew um, are both in some ways. I mean, both are indie games, I would say, and I don't know, but from me lurking the forums there for a while, especially looking at Starbound, I just got the feeling, but I wasn't with Stardew from the beginning, so but I still got the feeling that it's definitely two games that really like this crowd, they would like both of them. Like you wouldn't find many players that would only like Starbound and not Stardew as much, because both really have this not just one way of playing or one thing to do, right?
Yeah,
Am I wrong?
I totally agree with that. Yes.
It seems to be
I
the
think
same
that's the thing.
crowd. And I've seen some
Definitely.
posts where people have been like, "Oh man, which is coming first?" and hope they don't release at the same time. Which will I play? And all these funny posts on the forum. Where
I'm certainly really excited for Starbound myself. I can't wait to play it.
Yeah, you see. Hopefully, okay. So If they release first, then your game will be delayed because you will be playing. No,
Maybe a little.
maybe a little. Um, so like release date, I know you don't have a date. Is it still, what can you say about the release about the game? Like, which are you do you feel you're still on time for what I heard on the forums?
Well, the Stardew Valley website said sometime in 2013, and that's the only thing that I'll kind of commit to.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard, and this is something I've learned over the course of just making this game. It's super hard to uh, make an accurate estimate of how long a game is going to take to develop because I don't know, it always seems like it's going to go faster than it actually does because a lot of the different things you have to do to create a game just take a really long time, like way longer than you'd think. So I really feel uncomfortable making a precise estimate as to when it's going to be done because I don't want to disappoint people and make a promise that I can't keep. So I'll just say that I'm very sure that it'll be done this year.
That's your goal.
Yes. I'd like to get it done as soon as possible. That's another thing I'll say is that I'm working hard on getting it done as soon as possible, but I don't want to release, a game that I'm not happy with. And I learned my lesson when I posted my game to Greenlight the first time. You know,
Hmm.
I want to make the game that I've always wanted to play, that everyone else wants to play. And I think that if it takes a little bit longer to make that game, I think everyone will be happy in the end that the game, was better and it took a little bit longer than the game's rushed and released and it doesn't live up to what people wanted or to what I wanted, what my vision for the game is.
Yeah. This isn't a game that will suffer from if it's getting pushed forward. It won't suffer from people saying, well, the graphics look dated.
Right.
That won't happen at least. But no, I agree with you. I totally think a game should be, it's better to get a well-working game, polished game, than something that's buggy. But your goal 2013 and Chucklefish is not they're not there breathing down your neck like, oh, we need this out, like
No,
some other
not
big
at all.
publisher would.
No.
No, that's awesome.
Chucklefish is the best publisher in the world.
You're not biased at all. No, I do like what I read about them and stuff like that. So yeah. Is that an airplane?
Yes, sorry. My microphone's too sensitive.
That's awesome. Oh, picking up the airplane.
If you can hear that, and I feel like my voice must be so loud that it's like you're hearing
I
distortion.
haven't had anyone complain though about the audio. More than someone saying that you can talk freely a lot better than I can, which I know I'm not native English speaking, so I hope people bear with me not being perfect at speaking like that. Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot, I feel, and a lot of my notes has, like, you answered a lot of them already. And now people, just because we talked about it, now people are saying, "Oh, your volume is fine," which is great. So, will you do any beta for this game?
I can't say yet. I don't know.
That's not decided on yet.
It's not decided on. No, it's possible, but if it is, it won't be a public beta because this is the sort of game that I don't think would benefit too much from a beta, and I think it would kind of ruin it for a lot of people because there is a lot of story and character development, and if you play through a unfinished version of those things, it's gonna make playing through again way less fun. And I want it to be that the story and all of those things are, very polished, and so that people's first time playing is, this like magical, wonderful experience, and not kind of something that they already played a crappier version of the same thing, and then they have to play it again when it's polished. I want it to be like the first time is the best that it can be. So if there is a beta, it'll be a closed beta, and for those people who want to do that and kind of ruin the first experience. I mean, I wouldn't say ruin. It's not like the game's going to be terrible in beta, but it won't be like the best experience that it can be because the game won't be fully polished and fleshed out.
Cool. So you're pretty much saying here that you're leaning towards a closed beta more than a open one.
Yes, if there is a beta at all.
Yeah, if there is a beta at all. Okay, cool. I am one of those who think there's too much open betas. So you guys have my opinion. On this show, I am allowed to say what I think.
That's another thing that, like, we were talking about not being able to pronounce the hold on, sorry, I'm doing something. Okay, we were talking about not being able to pronounce the names of the Super Nintendo RPGs.
Yeah.
And it's like beta, and like that's another thing that I feel like is the same thing. Like what is a beta? What is an alpha? What is a gamma? Like there's all these different terms, and I don't even really know what they mean. I don't even know if anyone really knows what they mean.
When is it alpha? When is it beta? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Concepts. And when is it? So closed beta, is that a worse part of like? Is that earlier than open beta? Which I guess most people would say yes to, but is an open beta just a new freaking name of a demo? Like, I don't know, but it does feel like it. I mean, it seems like it's almost the way of all games now.
I think an open beta is like it's the full game, but it's just not like perfectly finished. But it's like, at what point do you say it's now beta and it's not alpha?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, I think it's too much open betas overall today. I just think as you said, it ruins the gaming experience. Because I'm 27 years old. I just remember back when actually you downloaded a demo to try the game, which they usually released about when they released the game, so that you could try it before you buy it. And that's just not there anymore, it seems. So I actually miss demos. Is that cool? I miss demos. I want to have demos back. I want to be able to try a game before I buy it in that way. But okay. We've definitely been doing this longer than I thought we would before we started, but you've been having so much good things to say, so I blame that. And we will, since I'm expecting you to have long, good, fleshed out answers for all the community questions which were posted on the forums, which is a funny thing though, because coming to this forum, I realized before I even announced it, I realized that this guy is answering a lot of questions on both IRC, there's the camera, both IRC and on the forums, which also is pretty awesome. You still do take the time to interact with the people on your forum.
It's true, yeah.
Which I think, which is a good thing in my opinion. I think it's awesome. Did your monkey just go in? What happened?
Oh, what? Did something bad happen? Oh my god.
You can just try restart the camera. I think that's what's happened. I think the camera overheated.
Sorry, I was trying to log. I should probably not do this, but I was trying to get on the Twitch page so I could see what people are saying, but that's probably
well, they pretty much monkey's dead. Actually, to be honest, there's not been a lot of chatting on there. It's very, very little. Not much at all. So no worry.
That's why I was kind of bumbling the last few minutes. But okay, go on. Let's do these community questions.
Let's do it. I just want to mark them with a shorter break than before, because it helps us with the whole YouTube side of things. So because yeah, we're putting this up on YouTube for all of you that you know will be watching this later. Um, so a quick break with just a little bit of music. It will be 1-2 minutes. I probably won't even leave the computer. We'll be right back. There we go. I need to unmute my mic. I forgot that. That's good. Here we go. Back from break with Concerned Ape, also known as Eric, which we found out at the beginning of the show, and then, well, I haven't called you anything since then. You're just, hey, you, man. Creator of Stardew Valley. And before we start with the community questions, we will pretty much go through all of those questions now, which will mean we're gonna jump back and forth into, like, there won't be any red line here. We're just start from the top and go to the bottom of all those questions on the forum in the thread about this show. And before we do that, I will take the time to say thank you for watching. This is our second one-on-one. The first episode, which is on YouTube, was me interviewing Sebastian Persson, the lead programmer from Star Vault. They working on a game which has been released. It's an MMO called Mortal Online, which is pretty much a sandbox, first-person view fantasy uh, game which is, yeah, it's hardcore. So if you die, it's not permanent death, but if you die, you're a ghost and you have to get to. It's very similar. A lot of the mechanics is similar to Ultima Online, and you have to you actually lose everything you're wearing, everything. That's the way it's hardcore. Like you lose. People can steal anything from you and everything. So it's a pretty cool game. It's a niche game. It's not for everyone. But with that, we have a Facebook page. Just search for. I should have had links, by the way, but search for Metagaming. .tv, you should find it, and we also have a Twitch you can follow, which is Metagaming TV, and oh, Twitter. We have a Twitter, which is Metagaming TV, and you're watching us on Twitch right now, meaning please subscribe and follow us, and you'll get notified as soon as we do any other future content and shows, as well as on YouTube. Shit, there's so much social media today. As well as YouTube, Metagaming TV, and yeah, subscribe, follow us, especially on YouTube and here on Twitch, because that's where everything happens. We announce stuff on Twitter and on Facebook, and we broadcast live pretty much anything we do here, and we're gonna put everything on YouTube. We're actually gonna make some, I think, some special things just for YouTube, but that's in the pipeline, so we'll see. Let's get to the community questions. Oh god, I need to have like some sort of graphic with just the info for that, because I realized I didn't have that, and then I felt like, oh my god, I have to say that stuff because it's important for the growth of Metagaming TV. So there we go. The questions. We're starting from the top. We had Hollow from the forums putting in. I think he edited this, because I think it was 11 questions, but now it's 12. But oh well. Let's just start from the top, man. And hopefully we'll be done pretty quickly. You think about how long you answer each one.
I'll keep them brief.
Good. Some, honestly, a lot of these, or at least some of them, we have already talked about in one way or another. Maybe I'll just retract that with asking every question, because we have actually talked about some of these. But I mean, the top one was what got you into the world of independent game design, and what made you stick with it long enough to get where you are now, which I think we covered. But.
We kind of did. I mean, I've always been into just indie stuff in general, not just games, but music and art and movies and all those things. I just like the freedom that you'll find in the freedom of ideas you'll find when people aren't really like tied down to having to appeal to the masses or whatever. That, you know, corporations have to make money. They have shareholders to worry about, and when you divorce yourself from that system, you can find some more interesting stuff. You know, people will take more risks, and I've always just enjoyed that more. I like, well, anyways, that's why, that's partly the reason, you know, also I'm just one guy, so like I'm not a company, so anything I make is kind of just like just naturally just considered indie because it's not like made by a big mainstream entity.
You're the if you look up indie in the dictionary, it's a picture of you. Like, yeah. Especially, I mean, yeah, it's you and the guy who made Braid, I think the game is called. Also a solo guy doing everything. Cool. We'll just leave with that. By the way, guys, I just realized when he mentioned music, we do have a surprise. I thought we would have done it by now, but I totally got into listening to him talking, you know, telling us all this awesome stuff. So we'll end with it. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna end with a surprise, which ConcernedApe will do. Okay, great. At least that should have you excited enough to stay through this. Did you experience any bumps in the road along the development process, or has developing Stardew Valley been more of a hobby than a job?
Bumps in the road. Well, there was one time when my computer crashed, just like stopped working. And I was really freaking out for a while because I didn't know if the hard drive was okay. I hadn't really backed up the game on anything else. It was just on the hard drive. So that was a big stress, but it all worked out in the end. And the hard drive wasn't the problem. It was perfectly fine. I was able to transfer it to the new computer that I'm using now.
You keep
So
backups now?
I do. Yeah, I've been backing it up all the time.
Lesson learned, so to say.
Yes.
Awesome. Do you ever regret choosing to work on Stardew Valley as a one-man indie team, or does that make it more enjoyable for you? The coding, the art, the music, the writing, and everything else involved seems overwhelming for just one person.
Yeah, I mean, I have mixed feelings about it. I do enjoy doing all those things myself, mainly because I like having different things to do each day. I think I would get bored if I was just programming every single day or, whatever. So I like to be able to have little diversions. If I feel like making music one day, I can just do it, and it's fun to be able to do those different things. But then again, it's also a ton of work, and I think there's merits to having multiple people giving input, on the game. And I think I do get that from the community. I mean, people on the forum are coming up with great ideas all the time and discussing things about Stardew Valley, and it's really a help and really interesting for me. But, you know, it would be nice a lot of times to have someone else who's kind of like really, intimately involved in developing the game as well as I. It would take some stress off my shoulders. But then again, doing it all myself, like I said, it's not only fun to do, but I also have like complete control over everything. I don't have to, you know, come to an agreement with someone else. If I have an idea, I can just like execute it exactly the way I want, and that's kind of liberating.
Yeah, great. Um, so, what convinced you to sign on with Chucklefish as your publisher, and do you get anything out of the partnership beyond free marketing and web support? We've talked a bit about it. Uh,
We have, yeah. I mean, what convinced me? It's just that I think it was the best decision to make in terms of making Stardew Valley a success, and I have no regrets making that decision at all. I think it's been a great decision, and Chucklefish is a wonderful publisher, and they're a bunch of wonderful people who are really talented at what they do, and they've given me a lot of great advice, and I just like being associated with them. I like being part of the Chucklefish group. It's a fun community to be in.
Ty will be happy to hear that. I heard he might be watching. I actually don't know if he is, but fifth question from Hollow. What games are you most looking forward to the release of in the near future, aside from your own, of course?
Starbound.
Ba-da-ba-poof. Well, me too, me too, me too. That would be one game I would love to have tomorrow, but
Definitely.
Uh, we keep moving on. Great, we're actually getting short answers here. But it was also an easy question, perhaps. What would you say the most significant differences are between your game and the average Harvest Moon games?
Well, I'd say the biggest differences, the most obvious, are that it's multiplayer, four-player co-op multiplayer, and that it's on the PC, which it's going to allow for things like modding, but I think that's a question we'll get to. Those are the
Yes.
biggest differences. There's also a lot of other differences, but, you know, we've
Um,
discussed those a little bit already.
um, yeah, you said we'll get to the modding part. I also remember. I think there's a modding question here, but so I'll just follow up on that. You're releasing on PC, and we're all. I mean, it's looking to be released on Steam. But like, would you say there's any? I think there's a question about this as well, but I'm gonna say, do you think there's any? Do you have any plans for the future where you would, like you said, you started out for Xbox Live indie? Like, would you
Right.
still want to have it on Xbox Live?
I've heard some things about Xbox that make it seem like, it's kind of a difficult platform, or maybe like financially difficult to have your game be a success on there. But, if it seems like a good decision in the future, I would love to do it, as well as any other platform.
Yeah.
I mean, my main target is for computers now. So,
You totally
if I'm,
left that.
yeah.
Uh,
Although I think it would be really fun to play on a console.
yeah,
But it seems like, I don't know.
it's made for the PC
It's
right
made
now.
for the PC, and like PC like wants this kind of game, I think, more than console. You can already play similar types of games on your console. And if I'm gonna port the game to other platforms, my top priority is Mac and Linux, which I still really want to do. Right now, the game only works on PC, but we'll
There's a
see
lot of
about it.
people who would like to have it on Mac and Linux, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would actually, and I don't use that at the moment. I do actually, I am working on putting together like a media center in my living room, which will be built on Linux. So it would be awesome. Then I could sit in my living room playing it anyway. I'm not gonna have Windows in my living room. Cool. Let's see. That was question 6 from Hollow, with me following up on that. Practically every single game in this genre strictly only allows. Oh yeah, that I was waiting for asking this question before, instead of asking it myself. Practically every single game in this genre strictly only allows heterosexual relationships. What made you decide to buck the trend? Have you received any criticism for allowing homosexual relationships?
Okay, what made me decide to buck the trend? I mean, for me, it's something I feel strongly about, like personally, that it shouldn't matter. Like, I don't think that governments or anyone has the right to like prevent people from doing something that's not going to affect anyone else. And I really strongly feel that way about homosexual marriage and relationships in general. And so for me, it was something that I care about. I'm not going to, if it causes some people to dislike my game and not want to play it, I just don't care. Like, maybe my game will be less successful as a result. I don't know. I just don't care because I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
I don't want to promote something, I want to promote what I think is right, and it's important to me.
I agree, and I think it's awesome.
And it seems like so far the reaction has been very positive. Like a lot of people are really excited about that, and they think that it's great. So I mean, it's good that I feel like I'm doing the right thing, and it also seems like it's been the right choice in terms of the success of my game as well.
And it's still a choice to the player, that, like, it's still I'm assuming it will be a choice to the player.
Of
Like, they can still
course, of
play it and
course.
do a,
Yeah,
have totally straight relationships in the game.
of course. They're not forced to do anything you don't want.
We actually touched something we didn't talk about either when we talked about features of the game. I mean, there's obviously so many dimensions of this game and so much we could talk for probably 5 more hours, but you'll be able to get a wife. Like, you'll be able to date.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. You
We,
can there's dating, there's marriage, and there's kids too. You can have kids.
that
And
part I didn't know somehow.
it,
Ooh, that's awesome.
if you're in a homosexual marriage in the game, then there'll be other ways to get kids.
Yes! That's just awesome. Wow. So when we're talking genres in games, like, we're obviously talking The Sims as well here, right?
Yeah, I suppose.
Oh. So we will have DLCs every month. Okay. Let's move on. What games would you most say inspired Stardew Valley aside from Harvest Moon? It seems to have some Animal Crossing elements to it, for example.
Yeah, I mean, I've played Animal Crossing, and I think that I definitely took some inspiration from Animal Crossing, just in terms of like the kind of loose community feel of the game, like the community gameplay. I mean, we kind of already talked about this, but it's just Harvest Moon's a big one. Some of the modern kind of open-ended games that we've been seeing lately, like Minecraft and those sorts of games, and then all the classic kind of Super Nintendo games that I played as a kid, and
Yeah.
have influenced what I don't know.
I would say, like, it's I mean, it's very I don't feel the question like what other games inspired you to make this game as much when you talk about triple A games and stuff. When you talk about, I don't know, Call of Duty, um, but it seems to always come up when you're talking indie. It's always, oh, which other games inspired you to make this?
That's true.
And somehow I would say like any developer in any company making any type of game, I mean, at least many of them play the games they like to play, and you play games. You it's not about getting inspired. I think more like getting um, another word which just fell out of my head, obviously. But just well, maybe yeah, getting inspired. Like you're getting affected. You take in things you like from other games, and then you sit there creating your game, and you're like, these are things I liked about these different games. I'll use this some way. So
Definitely. I mean, I think that it's more like an evolution of games in a way, rather than,
that's a good way to say it.
I mean, you could think of Stardew Valley as, an, an evolution of Harvest Moon. I don't necessarily mean evolution in terms of that it's better than Harvest Moon, but it's just, a mutation of Harvest Moon. It's something different. And people are going to do these things that some people are going to say, oh, it's a ripoff. But I don't really see it that way. I see it more as this is how games evolve and how, eventually you're going to come up with new things by doing this. And, I think that like you were saying, like AAA games, they don't ever ask that. And I feel like it's just some sort of conception that people have that like because they're more, you know, like removed from the development or something. I don't even know
Yeah.
what, but like the AAA like development companies are more just like people for some reason think that they don't, like you say, uh,
Get
get
inspired.
inspired by other games. Like they're just coming up with all these novel ideas or something. I don't know where that conception comes from, but
Yeah.
it's just people have this sort of like weird reverence almost, I think,
Hmm.
for these. They're like these big mysterious. They're not mysterious, but they're like these big kind of powerful seeming entities that exist. And the indie developers are just these little guys that are more close to the actual gamers than
Hmm.
the AAA companies are.
Yeah. At least I think, as you say, close to the gamers. Like you talk to your fans on the forum. You talk to me like this, and we're live, and we have. I would say at least. I would say 99% of the viewers are from Stardew Valley forums, watching this, being fans of your game, anticipating it. So um, you don't see this as often with. I don't even know who you would bring out of the probably 1,000 man team works on Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Like, who would I talk to? Like, at least here it's easy. We talk to the guy making the game. I like it. It's indie. I'm indie. Metagaming.tv is still very indie. We're all very small. It's cool. I like it. So, let's just keep going on. Is it number 9 here? Yeah. What are some ideas for Stardew Valley that you axed early on? Or things you want to do but seem impossible to implement well?
It's kind of a tough question because I know there are things, but I've like put them out of my mind and completely forgotten about them.
Oh.
So,
So
let me
there are
think about
things
it.
you have asked that.
Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
A
I just,
tricky question.
yeah, I can't think of something off the top of my head right now,
Okay.
but I know there are things.
So how about the or things you want to do but they seem impossible to implement well?
Well, one thing is, a lot of people talk about, does the game have like an infinitely generated world, for example?
Yeah.
Like, I think it would be kind of cool, but, it doesn't seem necessarily impossible to implement. It just seems like that it would probably take quite a while to set that up, especially with multiplayer. And I just am not sure how much it would add to the gameplay. There already are a lot of games that have that in it. This sort of game, I don't think necessarily needs that. I think that it would benefit more from me spending time making the actual like events of the game and what happens in Stardew Valley more just open-ended and interesting rather than devoting my time. A lot of what it comes down to is what do I want to spend time working on? Like I think that most things are possible. They would just take a while, and I do want to release the game sooner than later. I mean, I could spend like 10 years just tweaking it and adding all kinds of things to the game, but I don't want to do that. So it's just kind of a tough thing to know what is the most fun to add. What should I really be devoting my time to? It's kind of
Definitely.
off topic, but
No, I think it was good. Yeah, you did. Okay, okay, you didn't say anything that you. Well, you did mention the infinite world, and I think yeah, there are other games doing it. I just like what you're saying. I'm getting more and more of a fan of this game. Can't wait. Oh. Why do I have to wait for games? This is not fun. Um. So, okay, here we go. Here we go. Number 10. We're almost done with Hollow, and then we have other people. Will the single? No, that's the next one. Do you have any ideas for what sort of game you would like to make after Stardew Valley? A sequel for it with the team from Chucklefish, perhaps, or something entirely different?
I'd probably rather make something entirely different. I mean, I like this genre a lot, and I really like Stardew Valley, but I'd rather make Stardew Valley like, a complete and really good game that I'm happy with, where I don't feel like I need to make a sequel really. And and furthermore, I would just like to work on something different. I have a lot of different ideas and things that I would like to do. I mean, it's possible that I might have another farming style game in the future. I don't know. We'll just
So
have to see.
I'm gonna follow this up. I think there's a question gonna who's further down here on the community questions. Uh, have you thought of expansions, DLCs?
I've thought about it, but I don't think I want to do that. If I That's not saying that I don't want to update the game after release. I think I might very well want to do that if I have more ideas and things I want to add. But I don't know if I want to actually have expansions that people have to buy. I don't know. It seems kind of annoying for players. Wouldn't you agree?
I definitely agree. I'm more one of those who think that how do you say it? Uh, like DLCs. I don't know. Again, I said I missed the demos, right? We talked about betas and stuff. I miss demos. I miss expansions, real freaking expansions. Not that I need them as much, but it seems everything is DLCs nowadays. It's just, give me a complete game. Just give me the complete game. That's what I want. I also don't like the pre-order stuff where if you pre-order, we give you 3 more missions, and I'm like, what?
I'm apprehensive to do money making schemes. That's what those things feel like to me. Like they're just a way to squeeze more money out of the players. I don't know. It just seems like you could just incorporate that stuff into the actual game
Okay.
from the get-go if you had those ideas.
Yeah, yeah. No, I do. Thank you, ConcernedApe, for not thinking too much about DLCs and expansions, or not even considering it at all. If that was what you answered. Um, let's keep going. Something. I think someone just tweeted about this show because the viewers just exploded, and I know you didn't want me to say that, but. Because I was actually sitting like, is this for what's happening? But yeah, now the chat is awake. Okay, we'll keep on going. We're for all of you new here tuned in, we're doing the community questions, which is the last part of the show. But I think we're just halfway through it because there's a lot of them. And ConcernedApe, at least so far, has been very good at making long answers. But during the community questions, he's been a bit shorter because we need to finish this show at some point. But you can all catch it on YouTube later. Though we do have a surprise, which is gonna happen once we're done. ConcernedApe have a surprise. We're talking Stardew Valley, and we're moving on to number 11 of Hollow's questions here. Hollow is a user. It's not, so people don't think it's something else. Will the single-player experience at all be diminished as a result of adding in co-op functionality? Mechanics that will be too difficult to implement with multiplayer in mind, for example.
No. The short answer is no, it won't. I mean, I'm making multiplayer in a way that it's essentially exactly the same game as single player, but just with your friends running around at the same time doing things with you. So that's not to say that I won't add in special things that will make multiplayer more fun, maybe, activities that require multiple people, but it's not going to affect single player at all, so no worries there.
Awesome. That will probably make a lot of people happy. I'm really looking forward to the co-op. It was up to 4 players, right?
That's right.
Local area network and internet? Or
Yeah. I mean,
have you have
the
you have you that set in stone yet?
I mean, I've been testing it on my local area network, so but you know,
Everybody's
I,
hoping
I
for it online, I guess.
yeah, it's definitely going to be online
Okay.
for sure. That's how I'm programming it. Just to do your local area network, I was just putting in, the local network IP, which you could do as well, and it would basically be a local area network game.
Yeah. Awesome. Um, Great. Okay, last question from Hollow on the forums. What's the first thing you're going to do once Stardew Valley is complete and any major bugs are worked out? Once the money starts rolling in? Large house, new car, exotic vacation, or finally devote some time to all the games you missed out on while working on your game?
Well,
I guess that's assuming that you get
yeah,
wealthy rich here.
assuming that Stardew Valley is a screaming success, which, who knows?
Yeah.
I'm not one for excess and too much indulgence, so I'm probably not going to be doing any of these sorts of things that he suggested, but except I might very well be trying out these games that I've been missing, that's for sure. And another thing I'll be doing is thinking about, well, what am I going to do next? Am I going to make another game? Am I going to keep working on improving Stardew Valley? Who knows?
Yeah.
There's a bright and interesting horizon ahead of us.
Definitely. About that though, is there any game that's been released that you have just not had the time to play that is like on the top of your list? Like this one I definitely want to play as soon as I can.
Hmm. I I'm not sure. I don't think so. If there's any game that's come out that I've really wanted to play, I've found some time to be able to play it a little bit. Maybe I haven't been able to play it enough, but as much as I would like to, but I take breaks occasionally from developing. Not much though.
And I totally missed because you clipped out. Which game did you say?
I didn't
You
mention
didn't
any
say. Oh,
specific game.
okay, because my audio, obviously, because I was like, did he say a game? I don't know what happened here. My computer froze for a second. Too many viewers, too many viewers. Okay, no, it's not that, but it could be something else. Let's move on with the community questions. We're moving on to, who is this? DJ Chris Blue. That sounds like a cool name. DJ Chris Blue. He liked to ask, number one, since you named SimCity, Harvest Moon, Terraria and Minecraft as your influences, I'd like to know separately what are your favorite parts about each of those games.
Um,
Whoa.
well, okay, I guess SimCity. What's my favorite part of SimCity? I mean, uh, I guess I'm kind of interested in like cities and urban planning to some degree, and it's kind of fun to be able to be in control. And I guess I just like simulation games in general. Things like SimCity where they're kind of open. I think what all these games have in common is they're kind of open-ended, and that's
Yeah.
something I really enjoy in games. It feels fun, it's liberating. You don't want to feel like you're, having your hand held throughout this whole thing. Sometimes that's fun too. I mean, I do like reading a novel, but I do have like the habit of imagining the characters in a novel doing things that isn't even described. So, I guess I just kind of like open-endedness. That's what all those games have in common. That's the brief answer.
Awesome. Number two, I am totally and yeah, so some things I'm not sure how to pronounce. I'm not native English speaking, to all you new viewers tuning in here, getting annoyed by my accent or something. I am totally enamored with the idea of harvest sprites and the harvest goddess from HM. I know that would be pretty much plagiarism to include in your game, but I'm wondering if you're planning any minor he does this magic themes in your game. Are you planning any magic themes in your game?
Well, like I said earlier in the interview, Stardew Valley is a fantasy world. I mean, it's fairly realistic. There's not like, imps and goblins running around everywhere, but there are areas where there are fantastical creatures. So yes, there is some, fantasy or magic. There's also a local wizard who lives, in a stone tower in the woods, and there's some mysterious things that go on in his place. So yes, I would say there's a little bit of magical stuff to it. I don't know.
Okay.
There's not harvest sprites, but
Okay. Um, we're just moving on. Number three. What? Okay. So some questions are really in repeat, but I guess they're really happy if we ask them. But you know, what is your programming background? Is this your day job? You pretty much said that this is your day job, though. We
yes.
talked about your programming background a little bit, but do you wanna say something else about that? Your programming background? You were
I'll
creating some
just say,
games.
um, yeah, I mean, I have a degree in computer science. I had to do a lot of programming to get that, and so that was a lot of practice. Um, and then in addition to that, I, have been kind of just making simple little practice games for a while just to get better at programming. That's basically my programming background, I guess.
Yeah, we're moving on. Um, let's see. Mopey wants to know, or he asks, you've taken on the epic task of creating a game by yourself. What advice would you give to a person who, like you, wants to create their dream game but has little experience as a developer?
Well, I mean, I had little experience as a developer as well when I started, and I just, kept trying and didn't give up and kept practicing a bunch. And I think if you, as with any sort of thing that you do, you have to practice a whole bunch to get better. And it's the same with making video games. I mean, you'll keep improving. The stuff you make at first is probably going to be crappy unless you're like just really just some sort of amazing talented genius at making games, which not, most developers aren't. They probably have some talent and they also practiced a whole bunch. And so that's my advice is just keep trying, keep practicing, and if you really like are devoted to it and don't give up, you'll be able to do something. You'll be able to make a game that you're happy with, I think. Maybe I'm just, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Maybe you are crazy. That's what you said. Okay. Uh, being all alone, doing all
I'm I,
alone.
I'm kind of unrealistic. I know that.
um, but still amazing doing all programming, music, graphic, all by yourself. Questions from Cloaked Bolts. Can you give us any details as Here we go, here we go. Can you give us any details at this point on how modding will be done? Tools, API, config modifications, and so on.
Well, modding is important to me. I think it's really fun and adds a lot to, the replayability of a game. So I want to support modding as much as I possibly can. I've already had that in mind for quite a while, so I have been putting a lot of the game's content, the information about the content and etc. in external files to the game so that players will be able to edit those files and share those with other people. And, if you want to add, for example, new furniture or another crop or a new animal or anything like that, it would basically just involve drawing some graphics, editing a little file here, and then it would be in the game. The game would know how to read it and put it in automatically. So, you know, there's a lot of things that are quite easy to do. There's other things that will be less easy to do, but I think might still be possible. And I would like to support that as much as possible. So after the game's out, and if people want to start making mods and they have questions about how could they do this certain thing, rather than having to figure it out themselves, I'm perfectly happy to answer questions in terms of like how would you go about modding this or that.
I'm gonna actually pull one question out of the chat now, which is a bit more alive, where someone did ask about if this is released on Steam. Um, will you look into getting what do they call it? Steam Workshop, which adds, which is a tool that you can use to, implement mods and stuff, install them easily, and manage them and all that. You know about that, Steam Workshop?
I actually don't know much about Steam Workshop, but
Oh, no, it's
I can imagine what it is, and
yeah.
you say that it allows you to like manage your mods easily and add
You
them to the
can
game.
like modders. I'm not a pro at it, but like for example Skyrim. People making mods put them on Steam Workshop, where me who play the game, I can browse them, look at them, just click I want this, and it will download and install it, and it will work with the game.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not like exceedingly difficult to put it to, integrate my game into that system, sounds cool. I would totally be for that.
Maybe something to look into once you get close or release on Steam.
Definitely.
Because I'm not sure if we actually asked this straight on, but Steam is the platform on computer that you're looking to release on. Like, do you know if, like, for a certain fact that you will release on Steam now that you have Shucklefish? I'm thinking.
You know, I can't say for sure, but I do want to release on Steam. That's all I'll say.
So all of you watching now, the game is on Greenlight. So just go there, put a vote if you want to see the game on Steam, because you know, if not through Shucklefish, then through Greenlight. So put an upvote if you want Stardew Valley on Steam.
Yeah,
That's all I have to
as
say.
of right now, Stardew is still on green light, so I would love to have your vote. That would be great, and I would very much appreciate it.
Yeah,
And thank you everyone who's already voted.
thank you. I have. I'm taking all the credit. No. Great. So, what okay, it's a follow-up question from him, and I did not mean to look or sound disappointed, but we touched this. He's asking what can be modded and which things can't be modded, but you haven't really. Do you know that so far? Which things that can be modded?
I don't know if, exactly what things at this point. I haven't actually like done much testing in terms of modding yet, but I think that I've been developing it with the idea in mind that it would be very easy to add in more like items, for example, more weapons, um, even possibly more areas and types of buildings,
Oh,
different kinds of crops, um, new events, new characters, new dialogue for the characters, and then also just editing any sort of graphics in the entire game, pretty much.
it sounds like pretty much anything then and everything.
Yeah, well, the only thing is though is like I haven't been planning on actually having like a modding API, so it might be difficult to do things like add in a new animal that has a new kind of behavior because that would require you to specify what that behavior is, probably, through a programming language. And, I'm not setting it up that way because it's just, I only have so much time to spend on each thing, and I don't want to go devote too much time to one thing. And I think that the way that the modding is set up right now allows a lot of customizability, and if it's something that's really desired in the future, a modding API, then it's possible. I wouldn't say anything's not possible. It just depends on what happens in the future.
A modding API would. Are you saying that it's something that's you're saying it's possible, but are you saying it's possible post-release?
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it's likely, but it's possible.
Yeah. Uh, the third question from Cloaked Balls is actually something I find interesting. Is piracy a concern for you?
No, I'm not really that concerned about it. I mean, I think that if my game's getting pirated a whole bunch, that means that it's a success. Like a bunch of people are playing it. And there's always going to be, a percentage of people who pirate, the games and just don't care. And then there's going to be a percentage of people who, want to support the developer and want to support the indie game scene and, actually buy the game so that people can keep making indie games in the future. And I don't really think that putting in a bunch of like, DRM stuff into the game is really gonna like affect it that much. It just mostly irritates people, I think.
Yeah. So it won't
I don't
demand
stress
you.
about it.
So the game won't demand that you're connected to the internet all the time to play,
No, definitely not.
which is something I freaking hate.
I think there's a lot of good people out there who will buy the game to support the development, and I'm just counting on those
Yeah. So
good Samaritans.
Yeah. Haze 2K on the chat. Great answer about piracy. Will Stardew Valley be DRM free? That's what you're saying. It won't. There won't be any DRM.
Right,
Yeah.
that's true.
Cool. And the last question from Cloaked Bolts. Are there any sizable monsters in the game or just the small monsters we've seen so far? And what about bosses?
There are sizable monsters. I don't really want to give away everything, but I guess why not? There are some bosses in the game, and they're bigger than your average monster. That's all I'll say.
Cool. A little bit of mystery still there. That's good. We're moving on. We're actually on to the last person who put on some questions in the forum here, which is from Givicast or Givicast. Not sure how to say that. And let's see here. So, how many kind of crops do you have so far in the game? How many kinds do you expect there will be at release approximately, of course?
I think there's about 30 crops right now. We were talking a little bit earlier about the possibility of crop breeding, which would basically make, an almost infinite number of crops depending on how I execute that. If I don't have crop breeding, then, there are definitely more crops that I'm planning on adding, like tea bushes and things like that I haven't put in yet. So there'll be at least probably 40 different kinds of crops that you can grow in 3 different seasons.
Cashew nuts?
At minimum. Cashew nuts? I don't know, maybe. I think cashews actually grow on trees, but
I said cashew nuts because I was then gonna say, well, cashew fruits. Yeah.
Yeah, I am
grow
planning on adding fruit trees as well.
Awesome. So, and well, same question with farming animals. How many animals?
Let's see, right now there's cows, pigs, sheep, goats, chickens, ducks, woolly rabbits, and another secret animal that I won't reveal.
Unicorn.
So that's 8 animals.
Secret animal? Oh,
That's
man.
8 like animals, not including pets you can have on the farm.
And
So,
pets.
I'm not sure yet because I'm still going to spend a lot of time working on that aspect of the game, and I'll probably end up adding more stuff. But
Cool, cool. Much more to look forward to there. So, the game has many aspects: farming, building, gathering, NPCs, social interactions, cave exploring and fighting, fishing, etc. Is one aspect the core? Is one aspect the core game, while others are a bonus? Or would you say the game is all those aspects at the game? Trying to read this. I'm reading it as they write it.
That's fine. I
In,
understand.
yeah, he actually has more there. In short, is farming, for example, more developed than the others? We talked a little bit about this.
We talked about it a little bit, and I'd like to make all the different aspects of the game very compelling, very deep, and involved so that you could just spend your time doing one thing or the other. Or you could do all of it, but it's, there's a lot to do, and farming, while it is large, there's definitely a farming theme to the game, and farming is going to be an important part of it. It's not going to be the thing to do, like he's asking. There's definitely like fishing, mining, those other aspects, community aspects of the game are going to be very important and very useful within the game.
Cool. Okay, next question. And people are asking how long will this last? And yeah, we're definitely a little bit over the time frame we set up, but we're definitely far from how long the first episode we made ended up. It won't be too much longer. We actually have, I think, 4 more questions from the forum. Well, it is 4 more questions, and I do know you guys in chat want to ask some questions. I'm just afraid that a lot of you, I have already seen some questions, and they are actually already answered earlier in this interview or show. We'll see about the chat questions. I'll ask. You will get to ask some questions, and I'll pick those that haven't been asked. Okay, and then we'll end with a surprise from the guy here. I'm making it sound like the biggest thing ever, the big surprise, which is funny, I guess. Okay, the game feels like you could build a whole The game feels like you could build a whole village with many players. Having 4 players co-op is already awesome. But why stop there and not have whole dedicated servers available with more players? If it's only a technical aspect, would you consider going this direction after release if the game does well? And we know, oh, he adds, and we know how servers in this kind of games can help success of a game. But yeah, well, yeah, bigger servers, more players.
Bigger servers, it's definitely possible if it's something that seems like a good thing to do after the game's out. I'm just focusing on having 4-player co-op right now, but I'm not programming it in a way that that has to be the number of players. I'm mainly doing it because players are going to be hosting servers, like essentially on their own computer, the same one that they're playing the game on. And if I allow too many players playing simultaneously, it'll probably make the experience just worse for everyone. Mm-hmm. So, I want to ensure that everyone has a fun gameplay experience. And if after the game is released, it seems like that's something that people really want and that it would be a good idea, I definitely could have like a dedicated server software. It wouldn't be too hard to add or to release after the game's out.
Like dedicated servers would be awesome in that regard, I guess. But yeah. But yeah. Do you already have ideas that won't... Okay, here we go. Do you already have ideas that won't make it for release, but you would like to see in later upgrades?
Yeah, definitely.
So once it is released, you're not like, you don't feel that you're gonna be totally done with it.
Well, that also depends. Like, I have lots of ideas. It doesn't mean I'm necessarily gonna do them all, but if it seems like a good, choice to make, that, I'll do it. I definitely want to update the game after release some with extra content and things like that. Some of my ideas are pretty like grandiose in terms of like how much development time it would take. So, it kind of depends. Yeah. I don't know. There's definitely going to be some content updates after release, I think.
Cool. That's something for all of you guys to look forward to. Following the first question, why does he follow up on that now? Following the first question, almost the same. Do you already know how you want to follow up with updates for the game? Monthly updates, mostly fixes, DLCs. Okay, I think it's the third community questions about DLCs and updates, perhaps. But yeah, we've touched that. Nothing you want to add there, I guess. We just pretty much you answered about the later upgrades as well.
Yeah, it's hard to know at this point, and too
Yeah.
hard to say exactly how often I'll be doing updates and
Yeah.
things like that. But
Would you say
hopefully not. Hopefully not too rare.
yeah. Would you say it depends a little bit also about like how the reception is when it's released?
Definitely. If
Yeah.
Stardew Valley is like a huge, just amazing success, then I'm going to be a lot more likely to release updates often than if it's a like. Let's not even say the alternative. That's not going to happen.
I was gonna say Notch 2.0. Oh, yeah, he's a hit. Okay, so last question from GiviCast from the forums, and then I'll take something from the chat there. Just to give a shout out to ChronoGene, I think you mentioned a topic there which we actually didn't talk about. Which good thing you pointed it out. The limitation of Terraria, or Minecraft, which influenced this game, from what I read in another interview, came from their lack of goals and lack of high-end content. Terraria half fixed this with 1.1, but there is nothing to do once you completed it. What is your take on this? I guess he's asking about end-game content, high-end content.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important, and that's something that I'm going to be working on a lot, is making sure that the game stays fun for a long time. Another thing about Stardew Valley is that, it has a lot more story and character development and things like that than these other games you mentioned. And there's going to be like certain things that, you can choose to do one thing or the other in terms of the story that'll affect the outcome of the game, or the way that the Stardew Valley town, what it can affect the way that the town changes over time. And so you'll have reasons to maybe, try to play through the game again and make a different choice. And in terms of like marriage candidates, there's like 10 different people you can marry right now. And they all have their own unique personalities, unique events and things that happen with them. And, a lot of players, I think, are going to want to experience all the content that the game has to offer. And there's a lot of stuff that it would be very difficult. Actually, it's impossible to experience all of it in one game. You're going to have to play through again. And like I've said before, I'm making all the different aspects of the game. I want to make them deep and compelling, fishing and mining and farming and all these different things, so that on subsequent plays through the game, you could kind of devote your time to a whole different area if you want, and it would almost, it would be a quite different experience. So, multiple plays through the game, I think won't be very stale. They'll be pretty fresh each time you play.
Awesome. That was the last question from the forums, guys. There's one topic I want to touch from which ChronoGene in the chat said, and it's probably not going to be that much more, and then you guys can ask a few questions. But a lot of your questions, I think, you can find later on YouTube. And also, now that we have a lot of you watching, please subscribe and follow to this Twitch channel. We'll be doing more type of interviews like this with we're looking to talk to other indie developers, just like ConcernedApe here, and talk to other people in other companies doing other games, and make more content. And also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Metagaming TV, and also obviously on YouTube, where we'll put this up. And there is some content coming up later in the future that will be YouTube exclusive, because it's going to be very short segments, like 5-10 minutes, I think, which won't be that well done live. So we'll just make them and put them on YouTube. So please, Metagaming TV on YouTube as well. So pretty much Twitch and YouTube, two pretty good places to subscribe to us if you don't want to miss out on any content, and if you like talking indie games and stuff like that. I know, longest plug ever. I'm really bad at that. So, like, um, Chronogene mentioned seasons, and I mean, we didn't touch that at all. Um, what can you say? How, like, will we have all different seasons, and how will they affect the game, or what, you know?
Yes, there are different seasons in the game, and for those of you who have played Harvest Moon, it works some similar to Harvest Moon in that there's different crops that grow in different seasons. I'd also like to change things a little bit. There might be some crops that grow in like two different seasons, or grow from one season to the next, or
How
things like
many
that.
seasons?
There's 4 seasons.
Mm-hmm. Because someone said 5 and 7 in the chat.
Oh, really?
So I was like, we better get this cleared. Like, how many so far? Okay.
There's 4 seasons. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, obviously the landscape will look different in the different seasons, and there will be different things. Things will happen in town, changes depending on the season, and there'll be different kinds of random events on the farm and things like that. I want the seasons to feel distinct and to give people hopefully a similar feeling that I think you get from, you know, the actual real world when there's different seasons. I know I get distinct feelings from the different seasons,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping to, evoke that feeling in players.
Awesome. Guys, you need to post some questions in the chat if you want me to ask him any more questions, or we'll have him do the last thing of the show before we end this show. Oh, that's a good question actually. How does time flow in the game? There's more to that, I think. Now they're starting. Now the chat is moving quicker though. Well, okay, so I'm just gonna read the whole thing. How does time flow in the game? Do you get limited stamina each day and need to sleep to regain it, or do days progress in actual time like a day-night cycle? And depending on that, can you refill your energy other than sleeping or work through the night?
I'm actually, probably not going to have a limited amount of stamina like in Harvest Moon, where when you run out, you can't do anything else the rest of the day. I know there's ways in Harvest Moon to replenish your stamina, but still at some point you run out completely and you can't really do anything. In Stardew Valley, there will be some kind of energy mechanic, but it will be less like either you have it and you can do work, or you have it or you don't have it and you can't do work. It'll be more like when you have it, you can do work better, but when you don't have it, you can still do some work. In terms of how the time flows, there's a certain amount of seconds that, in real life that have to go by for like 10 minutes to go by in the game. And then the day, progresses from morning to night. And at some point at night, you'll basically be forced to go to sleep. You know, to me, like, yeah, you could do a day-night complete cycle, but I don't know. It's more realistic to make your player has to sleep. Um, everyone else in town is asleep, and furthermore, like farming is kind of really related to the day and night cycle. You farm during the day. At night, you sleep. That's what like real farmers have to do, and I don't know.
Yeah.
So yes, you're not going to be able to stay up all night and never sleep. You have to sleep
You have
in
to
Stardew
sleep.
Valley.
And time progression is it progresses always in a set amount of like speed, in a set speed that you decide on.
Yeah, time always progresses. Although, um, right now when you go into people's houses in town, time freezes while you're in their houses.
Okay.
But, I'm still working on how exactly that's going to work with multiplayer, because, if
Ask
one player's in a house and the other players aren't in a house, there has to be some way of not having time freeze for everyone. So I think probably in a multiplayer game, time will still progress even when you're in people's houses. So I guess in a way, the single player might be a slightly better experience in terms of interactions with NPCs and storyline because you'll have, you can spend a bunch of time in people's houses and not have to stress out about all your time vanishing.
Awesome. Um, so Evans 111, almost like me. I'm Scream 112. Based on the features you currently listed, this game is going to have a lot of replay value. In your personal opinion, how much replay value does the game offer? What will make us come back for subsequent playthroughs?
Well, um, I when I play a game, I often like to play, if there's a game that has multiple, kind of story pathways you can go through,
Hmm.
I usually like to play through again and see what the other pathway has. Like there's a lot of, games that I played as a kid that had like tons of different endings, for example. And it was always fun to play through it again because, the game is just fun to play in general, but then you also get this reward of having a different ending, something unique, new the second time you played through, or the third time, or whatever. I'm hoping to achieve a lot of stuff like that in Stardew Valley in terms of the story. There's different choices you can make and actions you can do that can affect the town or the characters in town in substantial ways to make subsequent playthroughs of the game, you know, compelling and interesting. And in turn, and also just, the gameplay itself is fairly open-ended in terms of how you want to farm. Do you want to farm at all, or do you want to just spend time fishing? Or, how you split your time between the different areas will all, it's fairly open-ended, so there's, going to be a lot of, I don't know, I just think open-ended games in general have a lot of replay value, and I'm trying to make it as open-ended as I think is feasible for this kind of game.
Cool. Um, yeah. So yeah, this definitely the story. That's the same thing for me though. If there's just different ways to go through the story, different endings, and different storylines to experience, that's definitely what has me playing through a game again. Otherwise, I feel I've played a game if there's a finish, more than I would probably enjoy building my farm and doing that, which I mean that's where the game is open ended. You don't really have to start a new game to keep doing that if you want. But I guess though starting from scratch sometimes has a nice feel to it as well
Definitely.
when you're into building stuff. Um, there was actually a really good question here about the resolution of the game from Flux Array. If you increase the resolution of the game, will the graphics scale, or will you be able to see further?
You'll be able to see further.
That's awesome. Well, that's how I want it. I was just sitting here, please, 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 because I have a huge ass monitor. So I would love, and yeah, people got happy about that. Yes, awesome. Will fishing be challenging, or is it more like these random fishing stuff?
Uh,
Well, I made
I,
it sound like that.
I'm
That's
hoping to make fishing fun and challenging. Um,
minigame.
yeah, I was thinking of as sort of a mini game-ish sort of thing. We'll see.
How many fishes?
Right now, there's about 35 fish,
Oh,
but like, the way I develop is, I kind of like do everything to a certain level, then I go back through and do it like, build on it again some more, and then do it all again until, and then like finally at the very end, I'll polish it all off. And so like I still have to devote more time to fishing. And when I do that, I'm going to probably add in more fish, and I'm going to make fishing more fun all around in terms of possibly adding in some sort of like fish catching mini game or something like that to add a little bit of skill in addition to having, better equipment, have a little bit of skill involved too. So, you can get better at fishing, you as the player, rather than
yeah.
only your avatar in the game.
I already see foresee um I already foresee the community created fishing tournament. You know it will happen. It will happen.
Yeah, probably.
Or competition, maybe you should call it. Maybe not a tournament, but competition. Um, okay. Cause I think the chat has had it. They're done. I'm starting to feel really worn out here. I'm done. Um, I think I'm really happy to have had you here for this long. We went over time, which I'm sorry for.
It's
But
okay.
I did enjoy it myself. I hope you did as well. Um, and
I did.
oh, Ty has a question. Okay, Ty, you're the last guy to ask anything. Um, waiting for Ty, because there's a delay, obviously. So I said that. Now we gotta wait for him to write his question. We'll see if he has one. If that is Ty, I'm like, no. Ty, okay, so Ty asks something I think is pretty clear from previous questions in this whole show. He asked, I would like to know who your favorite indie developer is.
My favorite indie developer?
Yeah, Ty wants to know.
Well, it's Chucklefish, of course. Come on, Ty.
Uh, oh yeah, you should have gone with Valve. Sorry, indie, very indie. No. Oh well. So thank you all, guys. We're gonna have since blah, blah, blah. Eric, also known as ConcernedApe, is both or all. He's a programmer, programmer, graphic guy, and also a musician. He'll actually gonna play a part from the game's music on guitar because he was doing that while we were setting the show up, and I was like, "What? Wait, is that from the game?" And it apparently was, and I'm like, "You have to play this on the show." So
All
that's
right.
that's what we're
I
gonna
hope
end
I
with.
hope I don't mess up because I'm kind of nervous, but yeah, this song actually like I originally wrote it for guitar and then turned it into one of the winter songs for Stardew Valley. All
Awesome.
right. Let's hope I don't mess up.
Yeah,
I'm
and
just
hope
gonna play a small part of it.
yeah. And guys, be prepared with the volume. It might not. We haven't really done any sound testing with this.
Ow.
Amazing. Oh, I, I mean, how will any show after this be just as good? Because that's the best ending ever. Oh, Okay, so again, thank you all for watching. Please subscribe and follow us on Twitch right here, where you're watching right now. Subscribe, please, 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 because we're gonna keep doing stuff like this. I sort of feel we're getting into indie developers now, so I kind of hope that it will be a trend now that each guest following this one will be from some sort of indie developer. Who know? Maybe. No, I won't say anything. I have a few in mind that I want to talk to. So, and also follow us on YouTube, where you will be able to catch the whole thing again. If you missed anything, we talked about a lot of things. Holy shit, the show actually has a total of I think almost 2 hours and 45 minutes. Yeah, one day we'll make a show less than 2 hours. One day. So thank you all for watching. Awesome. That's all. And thank you, Eric, ConcernedApe, for showing up.
Thanks for having me on the show. And thanks everyone who watched.
Awesome. We'll leave with that.